There is a special kind of silence that exists in an empty house. It's not the quiet of peace. It's the silence of absence. I sat in my living room in my favorite armchair, the one with the faded floral pattern. The clock on the wall ticked, each second a little heavier than the last. My phone was in my hand. It felt cold. I had been trying to call my son Michael for 3 days. It was his birthday. The call wouldn't go through. It just rang and rang, a hollow, metallic sound that echoed in the quiet of the room. A mother knows. A mother feels a shift in the universe when it concerns her child. And my heart, my old, tired heart, knew something was terribly wrong. I decided to try from my landline, the old house phone I kept for emergencies. Maybe there was a problem with my mobile. I dialed his number, the one I had known by heart since he was 16, and got his first phone. The number I had called to tell him his father had passed. The number I had called, my voice shaking with joy when he told me he had proposed to Sarah. The line connected. It didn't ring. A recorded, automated voice, crisp and utterly devoid of feeling, spoke into my ear. The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try again. Not in service. The words didn't make sense. They were just sounds. I held the phone listening to the dead tone, the beep, beep, beep that followed. I dialed again, my fingers fumbling. Same message. Not in service. And then it hit me. It was like a physical blow to my chest. The air left my lungs. My son, my only child, the boy I had raised, had changed his number. And he had not told me. He had not told me. I placed the phone back in its cradle. The silence in the room was no longer just silence. It was a presence. It was the sound of a cord being cut, a bridge being burned. I looked around at the pictures on the walls. Michael as a gap-toothed 7-year-old. Michael in his graduation gown. Michael with his arm around me, both of us smiling so wide it hurt. I did not cry. Not then. A strange, cold calm settled over me. I simply sat back in my chair, the truth wrapping around me like a shroud. This was not a mistake. This was a choice. My son had chosen to disappear from my life. And the journey to that moment, to that silent, devastating phone call, had begun the day he said, "I do." To understand the end of our story, I have to take you back to the beginning, to the good days. The days when my world was full of noise and laughter and the wonderful, chaotic mess of raising a boy. His name is Michael. My Michael. He was the kind of child who saw magic in everything. A puddle was not just a puddle. It was an ocean for his toy boats. A cardboard box was a castle, a spaceship, a secret fort. He had his father's kind eyes and my, as my husband used to say, stubborn heart. He felt everything so deeply. A scraped knee was a tragedy. A lost toy was a heartbreak. And a hug from his mom could fix almost anything. His father, David, was the rock of our small family. A quiet, steady man who showed his love through action. Fixing a broken bicycle chain. Building a treehouse in the old oak in our backyard. He was taken from us too soon, a sudden heart attack when Michael was just 15. The light went out of our house for a long, long time. After David was gone, it was just me and Michael. We clung to each other. We were a team. I worked 2 jobs to keep the house, to put food on the table, to save for his college. It was hard. There were nights I cried from sheer exhaustion. But seeing him thrive, seeing him grow into this good, strong man, made every sacrifice worth it. He was my greatest pride. When he got into university, I wept with joy. When he graduated with a degree in engineering, my chest swelled so much I thought it would burst. I was not just proud of his achievements. I was proud of the person he was. He was thoughtful. He called me every Sunday without fail. He remembered my birthday, Mother's Day, even the anniversary of his father's passing. He would send me a text on those days. Just a simple thinking of you, Mom. I love you. I thought our bond was unbreakable, forged in grief and sealed with unconditional love. Then he met Sarah. I want to be very clear about this. I did not dislike Sarah. In the beginning, I truly wanted to. She was beautiful, intelligent, and came from a very polished family. The first time Michael brought her home for dinner, I cooked for 2 days. I made my famous lasagna, his favorite, and a chocolate cake from scratch. She was polite, very polite. She complimented the food. She asked me questions about my work. But there was a distance, a formality. Her smiles didn't quite reach her eyes. She seemed to be assessing everything. The furniture, the decor, our small, cozy house, filled with mismatched furniture and decades of memories, seemed to shrink under her gaze. I saw her notice the faded spot on the rug where Michael's dog had once had an accident. I saw her glance at the old, slightly lopsided bookshelf David had built. After dinner, Michael was helping me clear the plates in the kitchen. He was beaming. "So what do you think, Mom? Isn't she amazing?" I wiped my hands on a towel, choosing my words carefully. "She seems very lovely, dear. Very. Put together." He mistook my caution for approval. "She is, Mom. She's perfect." And to him, she was. I could see the love in his eyes. It was the same look his father had given me. And because he loved her, I decided I would too. I would learn to love her for his sake. Their relationship moved quickly. Within a year, they were engaged. I was so happy for him. The proposal was elaborate, at a fancy restaurant. He showed me the ring beforehand, his hands trembling with excitement. I hugged him tight. "She's a lucky woman, my son." I offered to help with the wedding planning. Sarah's family, however, had it all under control. It was to be a grand affair, a country club reception, hundreds of guests. My input was not needed. I was told to just show up and enjoy the day. I tried to be involved. I offered my mother's lace for her something old. She smiled that polite smile and said, "Thank you, Margaret. That's so thoughtful. But my mother has already arranged for the family heirloom veil." Margaret. She always called me Margaret. Never, Mom. Not that I expected it immediately, but it never came. The wedding day was beautiful, and it was lonely. I sat in the front row alone. David's empty space beside me felt like a canyon. I watched my son, handsome in his tuxedo, gaze at his bride. My heart was a tangled knot of joy and a strange, foreboding sadness. I felt like a guest at someone else's celebration. Sarah's family was warm, but they were a closed unit. They had their own jokes, their own traditions. I was the outsider, the mother of the groom from the other side of the tracks. At the reception, I had my dance with Michael. He held me close. "I love you, Mom," he whispered into my hair. "I love you more, my boy," I whispered back, tears streaming down my face. I held on to him a little too tightly for a little too long, as if I knew, somehow, that I was letting him go. That was the last time I truly held my son. The change after the wedding was not a sudden storm. It was a slow, creeping frost. The first sign was the Sunday calls. For years, our Sunday call was a ritual. 7 p.m. He would tell me about his week. I would tell him about mine. It was our anchor dot the first Sunday after the honeymoon. My phone was silent. By 7:30, I was worried. Had something happened? I called him. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, Mom." He sounded distracted. "Michael, is everything all right?" "I was waiting for your call." "Oh, sorry, Mom. Things are just really busy. We're just unpacking and sorting through wedding gifts. It's chaos." "I understand," I said, though a little knot tightened in my stomach. "How was the trip?" "It was amazing. Look, Mom, can I call you back later? Sarah and I are in the middle of something." "Of course, dear." Don't worry about me. I never called back that night. The next Sunday, the call was shorter. He was eating dinner. The Sunday after that, he was at his in-laws. The ritual was broken. Our calls became sporadic, rushed. He was always on his way somewhere or in the middle of something. The easy, flowing conversations were replaced with brief updates. "Work's good, we're fine." "You." I tried to adapt. I started texting him little things. A picture of the rosebush in the backyard finally blooming. A funny story from work. His responses grew slower, less detailed. A thumbs up emoji. "That's nice, Mom." I missed him. It was a physical ache. The house felt emptier than ever. I was invited to their new apartment for dinner about 2 months after the wedding. I was so excited. I brought a homemade pie. Sarah opened the door. She looked stressed. Margaret, hello. Come in. The apartment was beautiful. Modern, minimalist, all clean lines and neutral colors. It looked like a showroom. There were no messy books, no stray coffee mugs. It was perfect. And it felt cold. Nigel gave me a quick hug. Hey, Mom, you remember the rule, right? Shoes off at the door. I had forgotten. I quickly took off my shoes, feeling flustered. We sat at a glass dining table. The meal was pre-prepared, something gourmet Sarah had heated up. It was delicious, but it wasn't the kind of food you could savor. It felt efficient. During dinner, I tried to connect. Michael, do you remember that time we tried to build that model airplane and the glue got everywhere? I laughed. He smiled a little. Vaguely. Sarah looked puzzled. You built models. I can't imagine you getting your hands dirty like that, Michael. He shrugged, a little embarrassed. It was a long time ago. A wall went up. I felt I had said something wrong. I had brought a piece of his past, our past, into this pristine new world. And it didn't fit. The conversation turned to their future. Their 5-year plan. Sarah talked about vacations in Bali, promotions, trading up to a bigger apartment in a better neighborhood. It was all about moving forward, upward. There was no room for faded floral armchairs or memories of model airplanes. As I was leaving, I hugged Michael at the door. I love you, son. Love you too, Mom, he said, but he was already looking past me, back into the apartment. Back to his new life. The invitations dwindled. The first Christmas after the wedding, I was told they were spending it with Sarah's family. It's their turn this year, Michael explained. You understand, right, Mom? I did not understand. But what could I say? Of course, I whispered. I spent Christmas Day alone with a TV dinner and the ghost of Christmases past. The memory of Michael, no taller than my knee, tearing open presents with glee. The sound of David's laughter. Now there was only silence. I tried to talk to him about it once. I called him, mustering all my courage. Michael, honey, I feel like I'm losing you. I barely see you anymore. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear Sarah talking in the background. Mom, that's not true. We're just busy. You're being too sensitive. This is what happens. People grow up. They start their own families. You need to build your own life. Build your own life. The words were like a knife. My life had been built around him. After David died, he was my life. And now that was being framed as a fault. A neediness. I heard Sarah's voice clearer now, as if she had taken the phone. Michael, we're going to be late. I have to go, Mom, he said quickly. Don't worry so much, okay? I'll talk to you soon. The call ended. I was left with a dial tone and a heart full of splinters. I was being sensitive. I was being clingy. I was the problem that needed to be managed. The frost was turning to ice. The big confrontation, if you can call it that, happened over something so small. It was about a chair. Not just any chair. It was an old, solid oak rocking chair. It had been David's father's. Michael had loved it as a boy. He would rock in it for hours reading his adventure books. When he moved into his apartment, he didn't have room for it. Can you hold on to it for me, Mom? For when we have a bigger place. I was happy to. It was a piece of his father, a piece of his childhood. A promise of a future where I might rock my own grandchildren in it. They bought a house. A beautiful, new-built house in a sleek development. I saw the pictures online. It was everything they had wanted. I was thrilled for them. And a small, hopeful part of me thought, now there will be room. Now I will be invited. Now the chair will have a home. I called Michael a week after they moved in. Congratulations on the house, honey. It's beautiful. Thanks, Mom. We're loving it. It's a lot of work, but it's ours. I took a deep breath. I was thinking about your grandfather's rocking chair. Now that you have the space, would you like me to bring it over? I could come for a visit, see the new place. The silence on the other end was deafening. It stretched for so long I thought the call had dropped. Michael? Yeah, Mom, I'm here. He sounded uncomfortable. About the chair. Sarah and I. We've chosen a very specific aesthetic for the house. Mid-century modern. And that chair. It doesn't really fit the look, you know? I felt the words like a physical rejection. The chair didn't fit the look. Our history. His father's memory. My offer to visit. It was all being declined because it didn't match the furniture. Oh, was all I could manage. My voice was small. It's not that we don't appreciate it, he continued, his voice speeding up, reciting a line I felt he must have practiced. It's just not practical, and we really don't have the space for extra pieces. Maybe you should. I don't know. Sell it. Or donate it. Sell it. Donate it, tears welled in my eyes, hot and sharp. This wasn't just about a chair anymore. This was about him discarding his past. Discarding me. Michael, I said, my voice trembling, that chair is your history. It's your father's history. How can you just throw that away? His tone changed. It became defensive. Hard. Mom, don't start. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're always trying to hold on to the past. You're always trying to guilt trip me. This is my life now. It's our life. We get to decide what's in our home. I was stunned into silence. Guilt trip him. All I had done was love him, support him, let him go. I have to go, he said, his voice final. Sarah's calling me. I'll talk to you later. That was the last real conversation I had with my son. The following weeks were a desert. My texts went unanswered. My calls went to voicemail after one ring. The silence was a screaming thing. I was grieving someone who was still alive. Then came his birthday. I had bought him a gift, a simple, expensive watch he had once mentioned liking. I wrapped it carefully. I tried to call. No answer. I texted. Happy birthday, my darling boy. I love you. I have a gift for you. No response. The next day, I tried again. Nothing. The day after that, I got the automated message. The number you have dialed is not in service. He hadn't just ignored me. He had erased me. He had taken the final step to make sure I couldn't reach him. He had changed his number and chosen not to give the new one to his own mother. I sat in my armchair for a long time. The wrapped gift sat on the table beside me, a monument to my foolish hope. The pain was so immense it was almost peaceful. There was no more wondering, no more waiting. The truth was here in the silence. I had lost my son. The days that followed were the darkest of my life, darker even than after David died. Then I had Michael to live for. Now I had nothing. I didn't leave the house for a week. I didn't answer the door or the phone. I just sat surrounded by the ghosts of my family. The pain was a living thing inside me. It was anger. It was betrayal. It was a sorrow so deep I thought it would drown me. But slowly, like a plant straining for a crack of light, a thought began to grow. He told me to build my own life. In his cruelty, he had given me a truth I needed to hear. I couldn't make him love me. I couldn't force my way back into a heart that had closed its door. All I had control over was my own life. This empty, silent house. This broken heart. I had to choose. I could wither away in this chair, a monument to a forgotten mother, or I could try to live. It started small. One morning, I forced myself to take a shower. I got dressed. I went to the grocery store. The sun on my face felt strange. The world was still turning. People were laughing, living. It seemed impossible. I started cleaning the house. Not just surface cleaning, a deep, purging clean. I went through Michael's old room, which I had kept as a shrine. I boxed up his childhood things. I didn't throw them away. I couldn't, but I packed them neatly and put them in the attic. The room became a guest room, a room for a possible future. I took the rocking chair. I didn't sell it. I didn't donate it. I sanded it down and restained it myself. It was hard, messy work. My hands ached. But with every stroke of the sandpaper, I felt like I was smoothing a rough edge of my own soul. I made it beautiful again for me. I placed it by the window in the living room where the morning sun would hit it. It was no longer a symbol of rejection. It was my chair now. I reached out to old friends I had neglected. I joined a community gardening group. I started having coffee with a lovely widow from down the street. Our conversations weren't about our children. They were about books, about the weather, about a new recipe we wanted to try. I was building a life. It was quiet. It was simple. It was mine. The anger began to fade. It was replaced by a profound, aching sadness, but also by a flicker of understanding. My son was not the villain in this story. He was a man caught between two worlds. The warm, messy, emotional world I represented, and the sleek, orderly, ambitious world his wife offered. He made a choice. A cruel choice, a weak choice, but his to make. I realized my love for him had to change too. I couldn't love the son I had, the one who had shut me out. That brought only pain. So I started to love the memory of the boy he had been. I would look at his childhood picture and smile at the memory of his laughter. I would remember the feel of his small hand in mine. I loved that boy with my whole heart. And that boy was still real. That love was still real. I forgave him. Not for his sake, but for mine. Carrying the weight of that betrayal was too heavy. So I set it down. I forgave him for being weak. I forgave him for choosing an easier path. And in a strange way, I forgave myself for whatever I had done or not done. For loving him too much, for not letting go soon enough. The love I felt for him now was a distant, quiet love, like a star you can see but never touch. It was a love that asked for nothing in return. It was a love that had finally learned to let go. It has been 2 years since that day with the phone. My life is different now. It is smaller, but it is full. My garden is thriving. I have friends. I have peace. The other day I was in the rocking chair reading a book. The sun was warm on my face. The doorbell rang. It was a delivery man with a package. I wasn't expecting anything. I opened it. Inside was a small framed photograph. It was a picture of me and Michael from his university graduation. We were both so happy, so full of hope for the future. There was no note. I held the frame in my hands for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't feel a surge of hope that things would change. I just felt a gentle sadness, a closing of a circle. I think he sent it because he remembers too. Somewhere deep beneath the layers of his new life, the boy he was still exists. And that boy still loves his mom. I placed the photograph on the mantelpiece, alongside the pictures of David and of my own parents. It is a part of my story, a painful part, but a part that made me who I am. I am no longer just Michael's mother. I am Margaret. I am a gardener, a friend, a woman who survived a heartbreak she never thought she could. The moral of my story is not a happy ending where the sun comes back and everything is forgiven. Life is rarely that neat. The moral is simpler and, in its own way, more beautiful. The human heart is resilient. It can be broken, shattered into a million pieces. But if you are brave, if you are patient, you can gather those pieces and build something new. It will have cracks. You will always see the lines where it was broken. But that is how the light gets in. My son changed his number after the wedding. He closed a door. And in the long, silent aftermath, I learned to open a window. I learned to breathe again. I learned that my capacity to love was always mine, and no one, not even my own child, could ever truly take it away. And so my story continues. It is quieter now, but it is still mine, and it is still good.